So tell me about the Korean War.
I was subject to the draft during the Korean War when I was 20 years of age, and so I and five of my friends about my age decided to enlist in the Air Force, and we did. There was a long-time friend that I had from church, and that was one of them, Owen Gasink, and then another classmate from high school, and there were five of us all together that enlisted in the Air Force. And we were sent to Lackland Air Force Base in Texas for our basic training. There were so many recruits at that time that they couldn't accommodate us in the normal barracks that they had for basic training, so they had built tents, and we lived in a tent with just a cot to sleep on for what was supposed to be 12 weeks, but there were so many recruits there that they cut our basic training in half to 6 weeks. And then I was sent to two technical schools, one in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and one in Illinois, to learn cryptography, which is a system of code work that we sent out in communications. And so I was surprised one time when I went home after basic training that several people asked me, they said, what have you been up to? They said the Secret Service was here checking on you, and that you were about to have a top secret clearance. And so I explained to them that this was going to be code work, cryptography. And so I was sent to Korea for a year, and I was not in a battle zone, but we were in South Korea, a city called Busan, Korea, and we worked in the communications center, and we had a special section that was isolated and locked to everyone except those that had the secret clearance.
Wow.
To go into that room. And so I didn't carry a weapon for on the front lines or anything, but I did have to carry a weapon every time I went out to burn the trash, because it was all top secret.
Wow.
And so I spent a year there. I was able to go on what they called R&R, rest and recuperation, they called it, to go back to Japan for a few days, just to get away from the everyday work that we were doing. So I did spend a couple times over in Japan, a place called Nagoya, Japan, and then back to Korea, and I spent a total of a year there, and then back to Clovis, New Mexico, where I was assigned to Clovis Air Force Base, and I think I explained my time there earlier.
That's where you met Mom then, when you were stationed there. And is that going to Japan, was that when you discovered you became very seasick?
No, I was coming back. When we went over to Korea, I flew to Japan, and I was fortunate enough, my older brother Steve was in the Army, and he was stationed in Yokohama, Japan, the very place where we landed when we flew over there. And so I was able to spend time with Steve and Virginia on the Army base where he was stationed. And it always...
So the phone rang, but you were telling me about spending time with your brother Steve
Yeah,
in
and he
Virginia.
was a master sergeant, about the highest rank there is in the Army. And he wanted to take me to the, what they call the NCO club, but he said, being a basic airman, that I wouldn't be eligible, so he insisted, which I still to this day regret. I don't regret it, but I wonder how someone didn't put two and two together, that I was not a master sergeant. He and I were the same size, and he insisted that I put his uniform on.
Oh, so he got you into the big club.
I often think about what could have happened if they would have found out about us, but nobody ever put that all together. Me being about 20 years younger than him and a master sergeant. But I think if I had it to do over again, I wouldn't do it, because we could have gotten in trouble.
Yeah, but I'm glad you did. What'd you do in there?
But I spent a couple days with him, and then I took a train from Yokohama to Itazuki, which was on the border of Japan, across from Busan, Korea. So I spent the night on that all-night train, and that train, the sleeping cabins, the beds were made for short people. I remember I could not stretch out in that bed because it wasn't designed for tall people, but I wasn't able to get some sleep that night. And then the train let us off in Itazuki, Japan, and then they flew us over to Busan, Korea, where I was stationed for that year. And then you asked me about seasickness. Well, one of the reasons I'm not really excited about going on cruises is because I had an 11-day cruise coming back from Korea to San Francisco, and I spent nearly every day with my head over the rail because they weren't nice enough to offer us any seasickness prevention, and I don't know whether I would have been able to get some or not, but that was an exaggeration about spending every day on the rail. But I remember that I was doing great for a couple of days until on a ship, on a troop ship like that, you go down to, I guess they call it the galley, and there's a long row of counter where you stand up to eat, and the guy right next to me threw up.
That got you.
That got me going. So
Uh-oh.
of course, then like I say, I was stationed at Clovis, New Mexico when I got back. When I first got back, the outfit that we were relieving was getting ready to go to Germany for duty, and I got to hear about that, and I thought Germany would be an interesting place to travel to, but they wouldn't allow me to go because you had to have a year in the States before they would reassign you to another overseas position. So I stayed at Clovis for the remainder of my enlistment, and remained in the cryptography section in a real small building on the base where we did our communications in code work.
So they were still doing that even stateside. You would still work with
Yes,
the codes. Okay.
And I remember uh, right before, or shortly before it was time for me to be discharged, I was up for promotion. And I met the promotion board, and they asked me, they said, are you planning to re-enlist? And I said, I'll let you know after I see the results of this promotion board, but I knew what I was planning to do, but they gave me an extra stripe anyway, and so I was discharged as a staff sergeant.
Good for you. And do you remember what year that was when you were discharged from
That
that?
was exactly 4 years from the time I enlisted. I enlisted in January 5 of 1951 and was discharged on that date in 1955. So
Okay.
that's when we packed up and went to Sioux Center.
All right.